District is now called to order. It is Monday, October 4th, 2021. The time is 5:15 p.m. Joanne, would you please call the roll? Here. Thank you. Commissioners, are there any changes to the agenda? All righty. It is now time for public requests. If you'd step up to the podium and give your name and address, we would love to hear from you. Is there anyone on the phone or on Zoom? Okay.
Hello, yes.
It's all right. Public requests are now closed. Oh, hold on. Okay. Welcome, Mr. Duquette.
Hello. Thank you. For the record, this is Robert Duquette, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace. Again, I want to thank you all for, again, saving the green space that we see is so valuable here in our city, and especially in the Boca Chica area. And I just wanted to comment that I would hope that the district would consider not spending almost $1 million on additional pickleball courts at Pat's Reef Park, when there's definitely a more financially sound way of providing at least a dozen more pickleball courts at Boca Chica. I know at the last meeting, someone there indicated that the city would not approve pickleball courts without water and restrooms. I did contact the city, and that was not the development services opinion, although I would agree that it would be nice to have restroom facilities if you're going to have that type of additional amenity in the area. I think that would be the most hygienic way to have it. And considering the district is paying half, I guess, of the Boca Raton Dog Park's restrooms facilities, maybe the city could support this project by providing half the cost to restrooms that could be there temporarily until the facility was built. And lastly, I know that City Councilwoman Andrea O'Rourke is possibly on the agenda for tonight, and hopefully she can provide some better guidance on what she, as a city council member, might agree to as some different recreational amenities that would be consistent with what the city council is looking to see, since the ultimate decisions for the amenities has to be approved through the city council. So again, I thank you for your cooperation, and I thank you also for having this on your agenda at each meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duquette. Melissa, are there any other calls? At this time, public requests are now closed. It's time for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 27th, 2021. Found on page 1 of your agenda packet. Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Also, the approval of the minutes of the final public trim compliance hearing that was held on September 27th, 2021, found on page 6 of your agenda packet. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. Joanne, a roll call vote, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move to our regular business. Our first item is the Boca Chica CSR change order number 4, found on page 8 of your agenda packet. Brianne, would you like to take that for us?
Commissioners, if you turn to page 8 of your agenda packets, there's a request
for approval of change order number 4 from CSR for the Boca Chica cleanup in the amount of $4,800 in your packets. Our facilities manager, Melissa Dawson, included the breakdown for the change order, as well as an aerial view of what used to be there, which was a facility, a building that was at that structure that was taken down during some of the demolition that was done a few years ago when we first purchased the property. And unfortunately, that area was not cleaned up the way it should have been, which has resulted in a big hole that almost swallowed me on Friday, but I got out of it. But it should definitely, I'm recommending tonight that we take care of this and address this now so it's taken care of.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Brianne? Do I hear a motion to approve? Please. Thank you. Any other discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call, please?
Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wade?
Thank you. Welcome, Deputy Mayor Andrea O'Rourke. We would love to hear about art in public places.
Okay, now I think we're on. So yes, I love to talk about art in public places. Sometimes I feel like it's the only thing I talk about, but I can assure you it's not. I talk about a lot of other things that go on in the city. Thank you very much for having me, for asking me to come tonight to do this presentation. It is mostly what I put together and presented at our city budget meeting a couple weeks ago. I did add a few slides that are a little more park oriented as you go. So art in public places, you know, there's just a big screenshot. Read all of those things quickly. Those are the tenets of art in public places. It's economically viable for the city. It brings the public together. It adds to health and wellness. It invites visitors. You can see for yourself. So where am I here? Oh, here we are. Okay. So so a lot of people are under the impression, we get this at the city all the time, businesses are coming forward now, they want to put murals on their buildings. Art in public places is murals. We all know that. Here are 3 successful examples of what we've done in the city. The tunnels, that was 6 artists. These were call to artist events. 6, one on each side of the 3 tunnels, and then the Red Reef and the beautiful stage doors at Meisner Park. So I'm sure you've all seen those, and there's just so much feedback about this. It's unbelievable. I get calls every single day with people that have ideas about public art, but public art is more than murals. So I'm going to give you some ideas of things that go on in other cities or can go on in our city. This is an example of something that's in San Francisco. Obviously they did call to artists. I left my heart in San Francisco, and they partnered with the hospital, and they have these sculptures all around town. I've already reached out to the hospital here with the idea of maybe we would do pineapples, because that's the logo for Baptist, and pineapples are welcome. And what a great partnership and sponsorship that could be. This is something that's in Atlanta. I think it started organically, where an artist started painting these teeny tiny doors in places, on bottoms of trees, bottoms of buildings, stair steps, wherever. And so now if you go to their website on Atlanta, there's a map, and it takes you to all of their parks and all of their locations where you can find tiny doors. It's a thing to do. This is Pompano, right next door to us. They have a program where they have, they called to artists, and they did fish. Of course, I see us being the turtle city, so I'd like to do turtles. This is another idea of Adirondacks chairs in parks. We do have one at Meisner Park. And then this is pianos. This is something I actually saw this. We were walking in New York one day in a little pocket park. There was a piano. People can sit down and play it. And in Fort Lauderdale, they did a program. I think it's with FIU Music Department. And so again, you can partner with schools, universities, music departments to do things like this. The cows are famous. They've been around forever. They go from city to city. And I think when I saw them, maybe they were in Chicago. And then this is called Washed Ashore. This is art made out of recycled ocean trash. Washed Ashore is its own nonprofit organization. I think they're based out of Oregon somewhere, but they do a traveling exhibit. George and I went to see them when they were at Mount's Botanical Garden. And if I tell you, it is spectacular. I think it would be a great idea to reach out to them to see what is involved in bringing an exhibit like this into one of our parks. It would be spectacular. But we are doing a trash art project, which I got approved through the city, that started before COVID. It got stopped in its tracks, and I brought it back up a couple months ago and got approval. And we are going to be doing a call to artists for a spot right at the main beach by the pavilion, in the green space near the pavilion at Palmetto Park Road. And it will be a turtle, and we're working on a call to artists right now. And then this is a global project all over the world. It's sort of famous if you go on the internet and look up Before I Die. These are everywhere, and it's kind of cool. Interactive art. The circle swings are in a park in Boston, and I'm not sure where this other one is, but it's something that you can play with and walk in and out of, and kids love it. And then this is iconic, also interactive art. Everyone has seen the bean in Chicago. Well, we now have the rocket ship in Boca Raton. It's on the old IBM campus, which is now the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. When you drive in off of Yamato Road, you cannot miss the rocket ship. It's 30 feet high, by an artist by the name of Hubert Phipps. The Boca Museum partnered with Boca Raton Innovation Campus and hired this artist to do this project. They were looking for something that would really indicate innovation. The past, the IBM PC and smartphone was invented on this campus, and the owners of the property now see a future in future innovation. So they wanted to represent that, and it's also reflective and very symbolic. I think we have mosaics at Sugar Sand Park, just another example of dressing up the area. And then this is something, shout out to our Boca Library. We're doing the walks. This is public art as well. All of this that engages the community, engages children and adults that you can interact with. It's public art. Symbolic. The flags are on the Lynn University campus. That was put there to indicate all of the different students from all the different countries that go to Lynn University. And when you drive by Lynn, it's kind of an iconic look. It really stands out. Of course, we have Flossie. She just got cleaned and shined up, and she's back at her home in front of the Meisner Amphitheater. And what else do I have up here? I forgot. Oh yeah, well, they speak for themselves. So I'm ready to do a presentation to the city and say, let's paint our skate park. I think that would be a great idea. Why not? And then this is something, we were on vacation. I think we were in Austin, and we were walking on the sidewalk, and I saw this. So it's a message, scoop your poop. Why not? Make it fun. So these are all selfie moments, Instagrammable moments. These are two pieces that the museum is donating to the wildflower property. I believe there's a third piece. I don't have a picture of it. I think they might be painting the red one into different colors. The artist is local, so she will be redoing it. But they are on loan, but kind of given to us for the Wildflower Park project. So the museum director believes in art beyond the walls, which is he's working with Brick, and he's doing art shows there as well. So this is something you can do with, kind of defunct playgrounds, basketball courts, tennis courts, whatever. If you have a little piece of property, you're not doing anything with it, rather than sitting with doing nothing, make it fun, make it interactive. Something like this is super, super inexpensive to do. It's paint. Artists are happy to do something like this, put their name to it for very minimal amount of money. And then there's art. As we just saw this recently too. We went up to the Norton Art Gallery in West Palm Beach. We parked a block or two away, and I noticed on the ground there was words. So I stopped to look, and it was all women artists. They were doing an exhibit on women artists. So I don't know if this is a new installation on the sidewalk, but they had a monument sign explaining what it was. And they had a whole long sidewalk of women artists, and when they were born and when they died, if they are not living. This is something that I've seen in parks where they have, signs with quotes and inspiration, I think along a walking path. Someplace I see this at Ocean Strand for sure, just, a quiet place where you're walking along. And some of these are done with chalk, but I'm not sure that's the best idea. But, there's a million ways to do it. And then this is an application I saw in West Palm Beach. It was, I think it was called Northwood, a funky little neighborhood. I happened to be walking one day and saw these trees that they're temporary exhibits, but someone had crocheted sweaters on the trees, I guess you would say. So it really stands out. The one way on the left, I just got that picture off the internet. That wasn't something I saw in person, but I thought it was really cool. And then these are sort of oriented to parks. At the end, I added a few that I hadn't put on my city presentation. So, these are called cairns, I think. They're Scottish, and you see them sometimes on beaches. And artists do these as art. They're also kind of spiritual and thoughtful. This is something else for parks where you could do rocks. I wouldn't do little ones, but you could do, you could have a dispensary where kids pick up rocks and have chalk, and, there's all different ways to do this. So, but this was an idea I thought I'd throw out there. Oh, and just to go back a minute, I love the rainbow path. I think that's just really, really cute. And I think it would really get kids' imaginations going. So these are the tenets and the inspiration and the reasons for public art. I tried to boil it down to really just a few words to pop out at you. All of these, I didn't make this up. This I took right from the Amherst Public Art Commission and the National Assembly. I'm sorry that I don't know what happened to that side, but it says amherstma.gov/art. If you wanted to read more about it, I just lifted some of their stuff because they've obviously done an amazing study. Really, they're really committed to art in public places. I can't read from here, but I'll just let you take a moment to absorb that. You can see what I highlighted are the main things. And my ask of the city, and it would not necessarily be the same ask here, is, I think having someone part-time on staff dedicated to this is helpful. I have spoken with other cities, Pompano, Delray, West Palm Beach, you name it. Every city has an art in public places program. The woman I spoke to in Pompano also does work, is writing the program for Coral Springs and Davie. And so she's part-time at different cities. And these things can be done in sponsorship, in partnerships. We've done call to artists with the cities. We never had very much of a budget, so we've allotted a certain amount. Any artist that gets picked gets awarded a certain amount that covers their materials, and that's it. If there has to be insurance or upkeep, then you have to think about that. You can hire an artist to do something. You can do an RFP. You can do community-driven projects. And a lot of these things are not terribly expensive, so or costly. So that's my public art pitch for the day. And I know that there was some interest on the Beach and Parks Commission, and if I can supply you with any information or answer any questions, it would be my pleasure.
Thank you so much. Craig, wasn't your daughter involved in the recycling, when that presentation, the kids came and they gave a presentation about filling the...
Yes, that was Luke Lynch who kind of led the champion of showing that project, and you picked it up and ran with it. And so I'm glad to hear it kind of took off from there, and hopefully.
Yeah, what happened was those were students. This was the one that's going to happen at Palmetto Park near the pavilion. That was an idea that came out of the students. I ran with the idea. I went to FAU. The FAU sculpture department was actually building it. This was in, we were supposed to show it in May of 2020. The pandemic came, the students weren't going to studio classes anymore. The whole project got halted midway. So when we got back to city council, I reframed it a different way, and we're doing more of what I showed you in this picture. Instead of filling it with plastic, we're putting call to artists to make it out of objects, trash found in the ocean.
I do have a question as far as the availability. There are so many talented people in our city and in surrounding cities that I think would want to volunteer some of their talent. Have you looked into that to, rather than to be just awarding them a stipend, maybe just paying for their supplies and then giving them some kind of unbelievable recognition?
I mean, I think anything is a possibility. I will tell you that artists, they work hard to make very little money. So, we do value their time and effort. So I think giving them a stipend is a fair way to go, but it's certainly not the only way to go. And again, if you have the ability to partner or get sponsors, then that can be meaningful to the artist. But if you go to Meisner Park, there's not where the stage is, but the other near where the tower is, there's like a step up platform there. And one of the artists that did the tunnels did is it called a mandala, where you walk around in circles? It's like a walking path in circles, and he put all musical words in there, and they paid him a nominal amount. His name is on it, and he was thrilled to do it. So, and he's also done like another idea is like plein air art, where you have people come out and you have an artist with giving out the canvases and walking people through doing, a painting together. He's done that there too. So yeah, I mean, they would volunteer their time. I think it's fair to give them a stipend and, and recognize the effort that they put into it as well. Commissioners, would you like to ask Deputy Mayor O'Rourke any questions?
I don't really have any questions. When I went on my trip to Maine, we stopped at one of the state park, and I just remember this one walk that we did through the woods, and you walked around this huge, it was like an oak tree. And all I remember were these awesome quotes that they had put on these pedestals. And me and my kids, I think there was Walt Whitman and really super famous, writers and stuff. And they were inspirational quotes. And it was one thing that stuck out in my mind. So something like that we could incorporate at Ocean Breeze through walkways and things like that. I love the rocks, and that's a great idea for getting some students from the different elementary schools, clubs or whatever, to paint rocks and put them somewhere in Ocean Strand or something. And then what else? And if the company for Ocean, I was just thinking of maybe they would want to sponsor something at Ocean Strand. Since it's
Yeah,
right
they
on
might.
the
I mean, I
ocean
think that they have offered to certainly find us trash for the trash art piece. They have been willing. They're willing to donate, as is Save Our Beaches.
Yeah.
And I was in touch with Oceana and a few of the nonprofits, and they're anything that talks about the environment. They're
I
happy to support.
Figure Ocean Strand is right there, and we're flanked by the ocean, and we're flanked by the Intracoastal and the mangroves. So I think having, and it was Brianne's idea, she brought up that we have that drive that goes down Ocean Strand. And once the construction is done there, that we're doing the easement for that one property, we could put some of the the cheaper kind of kids kind of stuff down that pathway. At least I don't know how long it would last in the sun down there, but it would be cool for people to take their kids down there and do that kind of thing, and then do something through the walkway, maybe have For Ocean involved in something down there, since they are a local business. But I think, it seems like such a uplifting way to get people happier just on
It makes
simple walk.
memories. That's what I say. It makes memories.
And it's not an expensive thing to do, to incorporate into our parks. And we definitely have two that we could definitely do it with for sure. That's just, getting going. And then looking at the current parks that we have and looking to try to do it there too.
Mr. Engel?
Having married into a family of artists, I've gotten a tremendous education on the appreciation of art as a medium over the years. I think this is a phenomenal idea. I especially like the storybook trails. I think that's a great way to get kids involved in the parks. The whole thing is just, there are a million different ways that we can take advantage of this, not only in the parks that we're building out now, but in existing properties. So I think this is great.
Couple things. First of all, your ask at the city council was a little higher than the ask here.
Well, I didn't put a financial number on this here. I did put a number. We have, by the way, when I came to you all several years ago and you matched the city put in 25,000. This is when we were first starting the program. And you did as well, which is what got the murals done. And we also had an Art and Public Places board at the time. I guess there's backstory to this that I should share. So the Art and Public Places board, it was very hard to be creative under sunshine law and government regulations. So the board would meet once a month for an hour and a half. And then they couldn't meet again. They didn't meet again for another month. So ideas it didn't spark energy. It didn't spark creativity. We did get the murals done, which was great. But what happened was that board came to the mayor and said, look, we'd just as soon you dissolve this board and we'll just take it out publicly and we'll just start a commission on public art. I haven't seen them do that yet. My fingers are crossed. I know that the director of the art museum is very interested. He would be more than happy to be involved in coordinating that stuff too. But I did ask the city, which was the ask at the end, to dedicate a staff person, talk to consultants and start a master plan. I did not get consensus from the council to do that. I had asked for $100,000. And they put in the 25,000 that they put in each year. So we have some left over. So we have a little bit of a fund. And I think you could, I don't want to say forget the city stuff, but I think that you could look at the parks that you're doing work in and that you're creating new and that you already have, like Mr. Engel said, and come up with some really interesting, innovative ideas. You can work with schools, you can work with the students, you could get, buy a dozen big rocks and have them put messages on the rocks in the park or whatever. So I think there's great possibility and I would be more than happy to collaborate, with you on ideas or give you resources. I love to be a connector and I know an awful lot of artists around. So
That's a thought, and that's to our fellow members, is I think I would be happy to kind of match the city's donation, but I'd also really like to see how we could do this in our parks. We have plenty of park space here, and a good point was that this really came up back when we were looking at the pickleball courts out at Boca Chica. Is okay, if we can't do pickleball courts, is there anything else we can do to make it look nice? Don't know if that's going to go anywhere or not, but I really, really think that we should do something more. And I'd really like to see that, 25,000, a call to artists, whatever it is to kind of connect it. We only have 3 working staff members here, so it's really hard for us to take on a charge of doing something with it. But if you could help us to do that, I think we're generally very supportive of doing it. Thoughts, Madam Chief?
I love art and I too, Steve, I have a family of artists and I do know how difficult it is to make a living. Fortunately, my cousin is very talented and makes a ton of money, but I would like a specific plan to be in place of where, if we were going to match the city, where that's going to go specifically. And that way we can also go out and look for other donors or sponsors to help us out and get us going, as well as going to FAU, going to Lynn, going to the high schools. There are a lot of talented students in our community, and I would love to get them involved and get them recognized.
It's trying to figure out how to get this thing really off the ground and working. It was very hard as a government board, as I said. Maybe a volunteer from city council and a volunteer from the Beach and Parks District, we could work together. We're not under sunshine law, and speak to people at universities or artists. It is probably going to take a volunteer committee, but doing a city board, it just did not work out. They couldn't talk to each other or collaborate. And then people will come for public request and they had 3 minutes to talk. And it just was a very cumbersome process. And so, maybe I can reach out to Irvin Littman, who is the director of the museum, who's very interested he's a big proponent of art beyond, he calls it art beyond the walls, because he has his art within the walls of the museum. So I think it's ideas I'm throwing out to you to see what you want to catch and pick up and be a part of. I think there's some ideas that you may be able to do in the parks that you're working with right now that are very simple, maybe with the direction of Ms. Harms. You can, she can throw a few ideas out to you. And I'm happy to help, to the degree that I can. I am walking a fine line on city council. So, but whatever I can do, I'm here to do. Listen, I have a year and a half left of my service to the city on city council. And this has been a passion of mine from day one. So I'm committed to it. And I'm committed to having a legacy in our city once I'm not here beating the drum, to have it continue.
Appreciate that very much, Ms. O'Rourke. It really is. Aaron, go ahead.
You wanted to just match the city and then hand it over to Andrea and say, here, and basically, I guess if you had another idea, like the tunnels or something like that, you could go after something like that with what we would donate and the city is giving you. You could do something like that. I mean, in all honesty, I don't need a plan of what you're going to do, because we didn't really have that before.
Right.
I mean, we did kind of, but in terms of something that you would do for the city in terms of this, I would totally trust your vision on what you would do. So I'm good with what Craig said. And then in terms of our parks, I think we just need to focus on one park at a time, and then figure out kind of what we could do in terms of a call to artists type of thing. You know what I mean? Like Ocean Breeze, we can't really do anything with yet because we don't have a master plan or anything. But I feel like Ocean Strand hopefully will be open soon, and we can kind of get a feel for the park and then do something from there. You know what I mean?
Andrea, would you be amenable to helping us out with the Ocean Strand and putting some of the funds toward the art in that particular park?
I would be happy to have that asked to my city council, because the whole council would have to agree to that. I can't imagine that they wouldn't. We've got money in the budget, and especially if you're matching our funds, and I think Ocean Strand is the perfect venue for you to start at, because you can do something that has to do with nature, that's inclusive, and even with the artifacts that they found there, maybe something that has to do with that tribal history, so yeah, I'm all in. Whatever I can do, within the guidelines of what I do, I'd be happy to come up with an idea and take it to city council and say, are you willing for the next project, to put funds into something at Ocean Strand? I think it's a great idea.
Is the city council pretty much on in your court with all of this?
I haven't been turned down. I was turned down for money. I wasn't turned down for any projects yet.
Okay.
So I wanted an ordinance to be able to have developers put money into a fund, which most cities have. I didn't get approval on that. I didn't get approval for the high level funds I was asking for. But for any project I put forward, and these really pretty much everything you see is come out of, ideas I brought to city council, I've had total agreement. They're on board. They're very supportive and very complimentary of what we've done so far.
That's wonderful. Commissioners, do I hear a motion?
Move that we match city funds for public art to the amount of
$25,000.
$25,000.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Do you have any other questions for Deputy Mayor O'Rourke?
I think the takeaway is the matching of the funds, but more importantly, explore how we can further develop a partnership, whether it's the, two of it, to a member here, a member from you to facilitate it. But I think our goal is to have art in the parks, and we have some very large parks that have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And so whatever way that can work, I think that's the objective. So
Oh, I agree. I mean, I threw out, 30 some slides to get your wheels turning of ideas. Really, that was the main thing. So I thank you very much for having me come and share those ideas and inspiration with you.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Joanne, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
While
for your
I'm
time.
up here and I have the microphone, Mr. Duquette addressed me personally on his call. So I just want to say I'm not in a position to speak for City Council. I'm here really representing myself and a public art for the community. So that's a question that I would invite him to please come to public comment at the City Council and, ask the council as a whole directly, because it wouldn't be my position to speak for the council.
And we understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very much for having me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
George, bring her back once in a while. Okay. We now move to the RFQ for architect engineer for district projects found on page 11, and you all have your homework set out in front of you. Brianne?
Commissioners, we received 5 proposals for the RFQ, and this is for the long-term multiple project contract that we're looking to get done. These proposals, we just got them on Friday. We've delivered some of you ahead of time and some of you are just getting them tonight, and then we'll email a digital link to them as well. Just wanted to get some direction tonight if you'd like to schedule interviews, if you want to rank them first, or how you'd like to proceed. Obviously not maybe at the next meeting because it's a lot to read through, but maybe our first meeting in November, we could look at these.
Commissioners, Mr. Engel?
Yeah, I'd like maybe the first meeting in November to discuss these. I'd like to rank them and take the top 3 and bring them in for interviews. Also going forward, I have an extensive library of RFQs and RFPs at home, and that's more and more becoming my library. So what I would like to do, if we could, is to make sure that we have a set of these proposals here, but otherwise have them submit these digitally so that, I can pull out my laptop and go over them. It'd be a lot easier than going through this. So that's just my suggestion.
We have them. I'll send you a link to the Google Drive.
Commissioner Wright? You have any questions? And is that all right with you, Mr. Ernst? Sure. Jacob, do we need a motion to?
Census, Madam Chair, to consider the item in November. A motion is not necessary.
Okay. All righty. Approval of invoices. We do not have payroll. Mr. Ernst, do I hear a motion?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of invoices of $83,610.32.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any questions? Joanne, would you do a roll call?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Joanne. Reports and discussion items. We're going to start off with Executive Director Harms.
Commissioners, I'll start with addressing also a comment made by Mr. Duquette. Hopefully he's still on. He said that he spoke with Development Services about the need for restrooms at the pickleball. My information came from Brandon Shad, who is the Director of Development Services. He's the one who reported that for those courts, we would need to have restrooms and water fountains. And for a temporary facility, I think that the ideal thing is just to wait and see what happens when we master plan the project. Everybody is wanting to know when we are getting our city invoices. We are missing 6 months worth of invoices from the city. I'm told by the end of this week, we may get the next 4, which would be April, May, June, and July. And then I'm not sure on a timeline to get August and September. But I know the city will probably be starting their auditing process soon and end of year. So hopefully those will start moving forward and we can get them sooner than later. I will have your new beach permits tomorrow, so we'll get those out to everybody. Boca Chica, the dumping has continued. We just heard that there's a couch out there in addition to some farm equipment that I saw last week when I went out to look at the hole in the ground. So we're going to get some costs together to see how much it's going to cost to get these items removed and update you on that at the next meeting. Recreation Services staff is going to be meeting with Mr. Schultz from Boca Little League tomorrow to address his concerns about travel baseball. And we're still waiting to get a copy of that policy as far as residency for travel baseball. So when we have that, we'll forward that out to everybody. There was some concern that we were going to have to put up trees along A1A as part of the Ocean Strand development, but that has been removed. So it's now just waiting to get on a schedule for city council to review is where we're at with that. So we're back to just waiting for city council scheduling. Future agenda items, we have the Miller Lake agreement at the next meeting. We'll have that done. And then user fees to continue the discussion that Commissioner Rollins wanted to have. That's it.
Thank you. District Council, Mr. Horowitz, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Good evening. I don't have anything for you this evening, but I do appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, Commissioner Wright, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up one thing that that you had emailed out about the next door comments about the beach contractors and
The chairs.
all the complaints that were on next door about the chairs and them asking people to move and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just curious if you heard anything back.
They're going to meet with that vendor. I don't know if it's happening. It didn't happen last week before when all those comments came through at the end of the week, but I do know that they're going to meet. More complaints came in this weekend, even some directly to the board. So I know that Michael and his staff will be meeting with that vendor to discuss the issues. And they have some photos that were sent over too from the weekend. So when I hear an update on that, I'll send that out.
Okay. Oh, there's a vendor that puts out chairs at the 3 parks, right? I believe.
They do all, but I guess it's a little intrusive and people are feeling like they're having to move their spots. And
Like one person said that the guy asked her specifically to move from where she was sitting so that he could put the chairs there or something, and that kind of thing. And
they've
a lot of
addressed it in the
people-
past. They're going to address it again and hopefully get it resolved.
It was a safety issue as well, because and I read a lot of the comments on Nextdoor about how one of the residents was standing at the lifeguard station and could not see over all of the umbrellas and what have you, and felt that that was just an issue for safety. And they also commented on the fact that they pay taxes, they pay for a beach sticker, and then they pay the same thing that a non-resident pays. So when we get into the user fees, it might be a question that you want to ask at that point.
That the city has with them. So I don't know how much wiggle room we'll have with the fees, but it's something we can certainly address with the city and ask to change.
What, the residents and non-residents
To
pay
give
the
that, yeah,
same?
I don't know how they would be able to do that on the beach to prove residency or not. I think that would be a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
So
Do about it. And as someone who's gone to the beach more frequently, I have not seen a problem with the Oceanside vendor putting umbrellas in front of lifeguard stands. The lifeguard stands, they're clear and free. Now there's a lot of chairs and stuff. There's more than when they first started. I don't know if there's a limit on how many they can put, but we've actually looked into securing it. And by the way, even though you can, there's no resident or non-resident fee, you still have to pay the parking fee if you're a non-resident. So, I don't see it as, a big issue, particularly when half the chairs are empty anyway. So,
I was just asking if
yeah.
residents say, like, I never
Yeah,
had
no, I
that
agree.
involved.
But to me, that's let the city staff manage it, and they.
yeah, I sent it to Michael and the communications director, and they're reviewing it and going to address it as needed. They hadn't seen the next door comments, but they had stuff in the past happen. Michael said they had spoken to the vendor before. So they're going to follow up and go through it again.
Anything else, Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Engel?
to have one comment. I've been in touch with people. People have contacted me about, and this isn't really our issue, at least not directly, about what they perceive as the city's reluctance to give written assurances about the new golf property at Boca Raton Country Club, that it won't be developed. Now, I'm not too familiar with exactly what's going on, but people are getting a little bit nervous as to how this might also be a problem with the west side of the golf course of Ocean Breeze. I have been assured by every member of City Council that they are committed to developing the property as a recreation property. But since these worries, if you will, have been communicated to me, I thought it was proper to put them on the record. Excuse me. And maybe city staff needs to, if they haven't, and I don't know if they haven't, I'm kind of out of the loop on this. But if they haven't, it would probably put a lot of people's mind at ease. People are just plain nervous. I'm sorry to point you out, Harold, but Mr. Chaffee was kind of worried about how we were going about public-private partnerships at Ocean Breeze. And hopefully I put his mind at ease, but people are nervous and they need to be assured. So if there is indeed a reluctance or it hasn't been done yet, I think it'd be a great idea for the city to give a written assurance that the property isn't going to be developed for anything else but recreational use. And, I've already heard from members of City Council about their feelings about Ocean Breeze, but I think overall it would lend to a feeling of security. That's all I got.
I'll talk with the Assistant City Manager, Chrissy Gibson, who's overseeing it, and just let her know and see if she wants to follow up or send any information out.
Yeah, I'd like to address two things. First of all, I'd like to address Steve and just kind of remind the process that we all engaged upon. And a part of it is just getting the master planning, Miller Lake, the opportunity to look at the property and look at different things that are out there. So I go back to the hotel site. The hotel site was a site that was a hotel, and it could be a hotel again in the future.
Actually,
So-
because the hotel is grandfathered and the zoning is now recreational. So the property would have to be rezoned all over again.
All of that is part of why we hired Miller Lake to work with the city, to work with understanding of what can be done, can't be done. So, and they'll work with the attorneys. I don't know what the outcome is, but I think, the reason we engaged the idea of Miller Lake and others is for the P3, as well as looking for grant money, was to offset some of the costs. As you know, the cost of developing the golf course came out to be somewhere with 10 to 15 million, we thought. We know from other experience through the city, the El Rio Park was over 10 million. The Silver Palm Park is probably over 10 million. These are expensive endeavors, and we don't have the money for it. So the hope is just let it explore out what we can do with the primary goal of recreation. The primary goal is being the residents out there is to have a recreational amenities for all of the community, whether it's a golf component, whether it's walking trails, all those things. We need to let Miller Lake do their job and give us some ideas. So
that really wasn't my concern. I'm just transmitting the concerns that have been conveyed to me by the public as to what's happening with one property and how that might affect another property. I don't think they were worried so much about a public-private partnership as much as the city taking their part of Ocean Breeze and selling it to a developer. That was the concern that was conveyed to me. Okay. And I used Harold's comments last week as an example of how people are very touchy about the subject. Not that we shouldn't explore a public-private a partnership. So, I'm fine with what you said. I'm just, this is a voice of the people type of thing. And I just wanted to convey what had been conveyed to me.
I want to be clear, we're not in a position to say there is no public-private partnership. There is no hotel. There is, yeah, but you're asked for reassurance, I think, and we can't tell you what we don't know is my point. So that's where I'd like to just say, look, we don't know right now. And it's a process that going through it. And we can't ask the city council to do something that they don't know because we haven't given them a plan. We haven't given them any information. We're going to start flushing out those ideas. Some we will like, some we won't. At the end of the day, I think we'll end up ranking them. And we'll say, these are the best ideas of what we think in conjunction with the architect. And even then, it's not a done deal. So
what I was referring to was nervousness about the city selling the property or not committing to a written assurance that the property won't be sold to developers. In other words, their concern is not necessarily a hotel or building a restaurant, but a housing development go up or a shopping mall go up. That's their concern. So, if the city is indeed, if the city hasn't given people at Boca Raton Country Club a written assurance, I think it would be a good idea. But again, this is only tangentially involving us because that concern flowed over to concerns about the west side of the property. I'm not saying that we shouldn't develop it.
Okay,
to have-
Aaron, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think, I mean, yes, the city owns the west side, but we are in contract with them to pay them every month for the property, right? So, and it's zoned for recreation. And I think legally, it would be very difficult for them to just go and say, nope, we're not gonna, we're not gonna agree to that contract anymore. We're going to sell it to a developer, but first we're gonna have city council vote to rezone it. Like, I think the chances of that ever happening are probably 0.0001. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, legally, that really can't happen. correct?
Woods,
Yeah.
would you like to weigh in and help us out here?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, as the board knows, we have a recently amended interlocal agreement with the city, which governs the status of both the east and the west side. The city does own the west side pursuant to the bond financing that the city assisted us with some number of years ago. And we're continuing to make payments on those bonds, as Commissioner Wright said. Once the payments are, once the bond is fully paid off, then the city would convey the property to the district under the terms of that interlocal agreement. So we do have some rights to that property, and I think the commissioner is right. Insofar as we continue with our obligations to make payments and finance the bond obligation that the city's incurred on our behalf, then we do have some rights, and we certainly have an opportunity to have some seat at the table in the context of any discussion with regards to that future sale of that property.
Let me make myself a little clearer on this. I am not saying that this is my concern. I'm conveying a concern
Understood.
or concerns voiced to me by members of the public. And it, as we've seen, this is media now is almost a game of telephone. And what the message starts out with isn't necessarily what the message ends up as. And all I'm trying to do is to convey what the mood is or the feelings are of members of the public. And I can tell them, yeah, well, we've gotten assurances about the west side, so that's not a concern of yours. But has been amply illustrated by some of the feedback we get from the public, sometimes the message that goes out isn't the message that's received. And I'm just trying to make sure that we, as members of the commission and the city also, understand that there are concerns, whether these concerns are well-founded or not. It's important for us to convey that message.
Could I make a suggestion? When you get these concerns, if you would refer them to Brianne, and if she can't answer the question, she'll refer them to our district council and hopefully set everybody's mind at ease.
It's about the country club, though, the country club that the city has, that needs to go to the city. That's why I offered to talk to her about that, but, and who we could send people to in general.
Refer them to Brianne, please. Craig, are you finished or did you have any?
There's a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of it comes from whether it's social media or anything else. We can only talk about what we do, what we do here, and what we agreed to. And I think, the conceptual nature of Ocean Breeze is we bought it to preserve green space. So I don't ever want to forget that. I'm happy with it being green space. It will be in some form of green space, but it has to be somewhat self-sustaining too. So we're limited, and so is the overall district. But I understand your point. Well taken. I want to switch gears to this whole thing. I want to go back to the art in the parks and that's out there. And it occurred to me actually in the pre-meeting of this thing of what Andrea was talking about art is that we have in our park. We were talking about closing the James Rutherford Center in Patch Reef, and in Patch Reef, it is you look at the building itself, it's way underutilized. The amount of traffic, and Brianne can give us the actual numbers, is gone lower and lower and lower. So you have a couple city staff members there in the building. And the highlight of the year is October 1st, when beach permits come, and I happen to be there, and we have, lo and behold, at least 6 people who came through there for beach permits. Temperature is set at 68 degrees in there. I happen to notice it. It's the coolest building in the whole area there. It is a underutilized expense. If you go into the common areas of it, you have some of the most beautiful views of the area. It is horribly dated. Okay, the building is built in the 80s with the 70s design. And my thought is really to work with others to see how we can do something with it. And so there was a thought put out there for a group that runs retail spaces. When a retail space is empty, they divide it up and put artists in there. And their plan is to kind of go at it in a very come in and go. If they need to go, they go quickly, but they bring in the artists, and the artists kind of work from there, and it creates something. I think because it is a community center that is owned outright and it's done, it's something that could really be an inspiration for more artists in the community, but it needs some thought. It needs a little bit more thought. One, what do we want it to happen with the building? Is it better to bulldoze the building? Is it better to let it sit empty for a long time and open it up for a voting polling station? Or is it better to give it some more utilization? And how could we possibly structure something? I like the idea, the concept of bringing art into that building. I thought it'd be terrific. But at the same token, I think we need to think through some of the complexities of it. We have to make sure the city is on board with it and that it fits everything. And there is kind of a legal component of it because it's in a park, okay? And we would like to, encourage the idea of art in the parks there, but how could we do that? So I mention this to you because I see it as something that could evolve into something, and it would be far better to utilize a big empty building than not to use an empty building, and it might do something for the community.
Now, are you talking about having designated spaces, workspaces for the artists so that they could use that as their studio? Or is this just for display? You know, what's your concept?
Well, it's not really my concept. It's an existing concept that many malls use. At Meisner, they use it as a concept of an empty space. And they basically rent out a small space and the artists come there and they have to work there. And they also are able to sell their paintings there. But it can create an environment that is very unique. And we could ask them to come in and give a presentation because they're far better at explaining it. But I
So
think
it's like a pop-up restaurant only in art.
yeah, pretty much,
Okay.
but it stays with it and they kind of divide it and they can come in and they can go and they're willing to take a short-term period or a long-term period. But I think it just needs a little bit more thought to flush out, and it would be a shame because I believe the James Rutherford Center is scheduled for closing at the end of November. It's going to close November 1st. So to me, you know, I've been there for the rummage sale. I made all but $100 and realized it wasn't worth it, but it was a lot of fun at the time. So I think having art there might create a different concept and just bring something new to it. And it's really a private entity kind of driving it as opposed to us trying to create something. So I'd like to recommend that we invite this group in and then see where we go from it.
Okay.
Would you give Brianne the contacts or do you have the contacts?
I'll be sure to.
Okay,
Do
great.
you want that at the next meeting?
I think if Bob was here, it'd be good.
I have two items down, so I can do this third one. Okay.
Thank you. I don't have anything because we've covered all the questions that Aaron covered, the one that I had, and Brianne brought the future agenda items. So are there any other items that you'd like to see on the agenda? Okay, Mr. Engel. Second. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, Joanna, roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe and we'll see you in 2 weeks.